What if the person you trusted most turned out to be hiding a dark, dangerous side? This is the story of Evelyn Harper and Noah Caldwell, a love that seemed perfect at first, but spiraled into a nightmare no one could have foreseen. On a crisp January afternoon in 2022, the small town of Concord, New Hampshire, was cloaked in the chill of winter. At the Roasted Bean, a cozy cafe nestled in the heart of town, Evelyn Harper sat alone at a corner table. Her laptop screen glowed softly as her fingers danced over the keyboard. A young writer with a passion for storytelling, Evelyn often found solace in this quiet space, surrounded by the hum of soft chatter and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. But that afternoon, her solitude was interrupted. Noah Caldwell, a 28-year-old software engineer, rushed into the cafe to escape the biting cold. As he fumbled to remove his coat, his elbow accidentally caught the edge of Evelyn's table, sending her coffee tumbling perilously close to her laptop. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," Noah exclaimed, his face flushing with embarrassment. Evelyn looked up, startled, her hazel eyes narrowing slightly. But before irritation could take hold, she saw the genuine remorse in his expression. "It's fine," she replied, brushing off a few drops that had splashed onto her sleeve. "Let me get you a new one," he insisted, and despite her initial hesitation, Evelyn agreed. As they waited for her drink, an unexpected conversation began. It started with small talk about the weather but quickly deepened. Evelyn revealed her aspirations of becoming a published author, her love for stories that explored the darker sides of human nature. Noah shared his passion for technology and his dream of creating software that made a difference in people's lives. By the time her coffee was ready, an hour had passed. They exchanged numbers, and as Noah walked away, Evelyn couldn't help but feel a flicker of something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. The days that followed turned that flicker into a flame. Texts turned into calls, and calls turned into late-night conversations that stretched until dawn. Evelyn found herself drawn to Noah's warmth and stability. Unlike the chaos of her past relationships, Noah seemed steady, dependable. And Noah? He was equally captivated by Evelyn. Her intelligence, her wit, the way she spoke so passionately about her writing, it was magnetic. He saw her as a mystery he wanted to unravel, a puzzle he wanted to solve. Within weeks, they were inseparable. Evelyn introduced Noah to her favorite local poetry readings and art galleries, while Noah brought her into his world of coding and scenic hikes in the New Hampshire mountains. It seemed like the perfect match, and their friends quickly labeled them as the couple to watch. But Evelyn wasn't just a writer. She was a survivor. Her childhood had been marked by instability, a revolving door of foster homes, emotional neglect, and a deep-seated fear of abandonment. Writing became her sanctuary, a way to pour out the pain she couldn't express otherwise. But with that pain came a desperate need for control, especially in relationships. Noah didn't see it yet, but the signs were there. Evelyn would casually mention her mistrust of people, particularly those she felt had betrayed her in the past. "I've had to cut a lot of toxic people out of my life," she once told Noah over dinner. At the time, he brushed it off as a harmless comment, unaware of the layers of trauma beneath it. They were perfect for each other, at least, that's what everyone thought. But beneath the surface of their whirlwind romance, cracks were beginning to form. And those cracks were about to deepen in ways no one could imagine. Evelyn and Noah seemed like the perfect couple, inseparable, supportive, and deeply in love. But even the strongest bonds can begin to fray when hidden fears and insecurities come to light. By March 2022, Evelyn Harper and Noah Caldwell were spending almost all their time together. Their days were filled with laughter and shared adventures, from art galleries and poetry readings to scenic drives through the picturesque New Hampshire countryside. Evelyn's creative energy seemed to bring out a playful side in Noah, while Noah's calm, steady demeanor made Evelyn feel grounded. To their friends, they were the ideal couple. But under the surface, things were beginning to change. It started with small gestures that Noah initially found endearing. Evelyn would text him throughout the day, asking what he was doing or when he'd be home. At first, he thought she was simply excited to hear from him. But as the weeks passed, the frequency of her messages increased, and her tone shifted. If he didn't respond quickly, Evelyn's texts would turn anxious. "Is everything okay? Why aren't you answering?" Or worse, accusatory. "Are you avoiding me?" Noah brushed it off, assuming it was just Evelyn's way of showing how much she cared. In May, Evelyn met Noah's family for the first time at a Sunday dinner at the Caldwell family home. The cozy house, nestled in the outskirts of Concord, was a sharp contrast to Evelyn's minimalist apartment. Diane Caldwell, Noah's mother, greeted Evelyn warmly, eager to welcome the young woman her son had spoken so highly of. Dinner started off pleasantly enough. Evelyn charmed the family with her quick wit and stories about her writing. But as the evening wore on, Diane began to notice subtle cracks in Evelyn's polished exterior. When Noah excused himself to help his sister Lauren in the kitchen, Evelyn's demeanor shifted. She grew tense, her eyes following Noah and Lauren closely. At one point, Diane noticed Evelyn muttering under her breath, her knuckles widening as she gripped her glass. Later that night, as they drove back to Evelyn's apartment, she broke the silence. "Do you always spend that much time talking to Lauren?" she asked, her voice tight. Noah was taken aback. "She's my sister, Evelyn. We were just catching up." Evelyn forced a smile, but her words carried a sharp edge. "It just seemed like you were more interested in her than me tonight." Noah laughed nervously, brushing it off as a misunderstanding. But the tension lingered, and for the first time, he felt a slight unease he couldn't quite place. As spring turned to summer, Evelyn's need for reassurance grew. She began questioning Noah about his plans in exhaustive detail. "Who will be there? What time will you be back? Can I come with you?" When Noah mentioned meeting his best friend Tyler for a quick beer, Evelyn's reaction caught him off guard. "You see him every week," she said, her tone accusatory. "Why do you need to go out again? Don't you want to spend time with me?" Noah tried to explain that spending time with friends was important to him, but Evelyn wouldn't let it go. By the end of the conversation, she had convinced him to cancel his plans. Her behavior didn't go unnoticed by those closest to Noah. Tyler, who had known Noah since high school, was the first to voice his concerns. "Man, you've been MIA for months," Tyler said during a rare guys' night out. "Is everything okay with Evelyn?" Noah hesitated before responding. "Yeah, she just needs me a lot right now. She's been through a lot in the past. I think she just wants to feel secure." Tyler frowned. "I get that, but there's a difference between needing support and controlling someone's life. Just be careful, okay?" Noah nodded, but Tyler's words planted a seed of doubt that Noah couldn't shake. By July, the tension between Evelyn and Noah's family had escalated. During another dinner at the Caldwell home, Diane casually mentioned an upcoming family reunion. Before Noah could respond, Evelyn interjected. "We're actually planning a trip that weekend, aren't we, Noah?" Her tone was sweet, but her eyes locked on him with an intensity that felt more like a warning than a question. Caught off guard, Noah stammered, yeah. I guess we could do that." Diane's face fell, but she said nothing. Later that evening, she pulled Noah aside. "Honey, I'm worried about you," she said softly. "You don't seem like yourself anymore. Is everything okay with Evelyn?" Before Noah could answer, Evelyn appeared, her expression icy. On the drive home, her anger boiled over. "Your mother hates me," she snapped. "She's trying to turn you against me. Can't you see that?" Noah tried to reason with her, but Evelyn wouldn't hear it. That night, as he lay awake in bed, he couldn't ignore the growing feeling that something wasn't right. What began as small cracks in their relationship was now threatening to tear them apart. But Noah had no idea just how far Evelyn would go to keep him all to herself. What would you do if the person you loved became your greatest fear? For Noah Caldwell, this question became all too real one fateful November evening. By November 2022, the tension between Evelyn Harper and Noah Caldwell had reached its breaking point. What had started as a whirlwind romance filled with passion and adventure had devolved into a suffocating relationship fueled by jealousy, control, and constant conflict. Noah's family and friends had noticed the change in him. He was no longer the easygoing, cheerful man they knew. He had grown withdrawn, nervous, and hesitant to speak freely, especially when Evelyn was around. Evelyn, on the other hand, seemed more possessive than ever, constantly demanding his attention and questioning his every move. But the final straw came on a cold November evening. That night, Noah received a call from his sister, Lauren. Their father, Richard, had suffered a heart attack and had been rushed to Concord General Hospital. Without hesitation, Noah grabbed his keys and prepared to leave. As he explained the situation to Evelyn, her face twisted with disbelief. "You're leaving? Tonight?" "We had plans, Noah," she said, her voice rising. "It's my dad, Evelyn," Noah replied, his tone firm but calm. "He's in the hospital. I have to be there." Evelyn's anger flared. "Your family is always coming between us. Don't you see what they're doing? They don't care about us, they just want to take you away from me." Noah stared at her, stunned. "Evelyn, this isn't about you. My dad could be dying." But Evelyn wasn't listening. Her words grew more venomous as she accused him of abandoning her, of not loving her enough to prioritize their relationship. Finally, Noah had enough. Without another word, he walked out the door, leaving Evelyn shouting behind him. At the hospital, surrounded by his family, Noah felt something shift. For the first time in months, he was free of Evelyn's influence. He saw the worry and love in his mother's eyes, the warmth in his sister's embrace, and the gratitude in his father's weak but steady voice. It was like waking from a fog. That night, as Noah sat in the waiting room, his mother, Diane, gently broached the subject of Evelyn. "Noah," she began, choosing her words carefully, "I know you love her, but I'm worried about you. You've changed since you've been with her. And not in a good way." Noah hesitated. He had spent so long defending Evelyn, justifying her behavior to himself and others. But now, in the quiet of the hospital, he couldn't deny the truth anymore. "You're right, Mom," he admitted, his voice heavy with guilt. "I've let her control my life, and I didn't even see it." Diane placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's not too late to take your life back, Noah. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to be free." Meanwhile, back at her apartment, Evelyn was unraveling. Noah's decision to leave her that night felt like the ultimate betrayal. In her mind, it wasn't his father's health that had taken him away, it was Diane. "She's the reason he's slipping away," Evelyn muttered to herself, pacing her living room. Her thoughts spiraled, growing darker with each passing moment. If Diane was the problem, then Evelyn knew exactly how to fix it. She began planning. Evelyn knew the layout of the Caldwell house well enough from her visits. She knew Diane's routine, the times she was home alone. She even knew where the spare key was hidden. In Evelyn's warped mind, this wasn't a crime, it was an act of love. By removing Diane, she believed she was protecting her relationship with Noah. The next morning, Noah returned to Evelyn's apartment, ready to end things. He had spent the night reflecting and knew he couldn't continue living under her control. But when he walked through the door, he immediately sensed something was wrong. Evelyn greeted him with a forced smile, her eyes wild and unsteady. "You're back," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "We need to talk," Noah began, his tone resolute. "This isn't working, Evelyn. I can't keep living like this." Evelyn's mask cracked. "You're breaking up with me?" After everything I've done for you? After I gave up everything to be with you? Noah took a deep breath. Evelyn, this isn't healthy, for either of us. I won't cut my family out of my life for you. And I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not. Evelyn's face twisted with rage. Your family is poison, Noah. They've turned you against me. You'll regret this. You'll see. As Noah walked out the door, Evelyn's parting words sent a chill down his spine. But he didn't look back. Noah thought leaving Evelyn would be the end of their story. But for Evelyn, it was only the beginning. What happened next would change their lives forever. When Diane Caldwell was found dead in her own home, the quiet town of Concord was left in shock. But for Noah, the tragedy was far more personal, and the answers he sought were more horrifying than he could ever imagine. It was a frosty December morning when Noah Caldwell received the call that would shatter his world. His mother, Diane, hadn't shown up for their planned coffee date that morning. Concerned, Noah called her several times, but there was no answer. Unease crept in as he decided to drive to her house. The sight that greeted him would haunt him forever. Diane's lifeless body lay sprawled on the kitchen floor, surrounded by chaos. Furniture had been overturned, drawers pulled out, and a broken vase lay shattered by the door. At first glance, it looked like a robbery gone wrong. But something about the scene didn't sit right with Noah. His mother was always meticulous about locking her doors and windows, and the smashed vase seemed almost too perfectly placed. Noah called 911, his hands trembling as he tried to process the horror. "My mom, she's dead," he choked out, his voice breaking. Detective Rebecca Hayes arrived on the scene shortly after. A seasoned investigator with years of experience, Hayes immediately noticed the oddities in the supposed robbery. Electronics and valuable items were left untouched, while small, personal trinkets, like Diane's jewelry, were missing. There were no signs of forced entry, and the way the furniture was displaced seemed deliberate, as if staged to look chaotic. As the forensic team began their work, Hayes pulled Noah aside. "I know this is difficult, but can you think of anyone who might have had a reason to harm your mother?" Noah shook his head, still in shock. "She didn't have enemies. Everyone loved her. I don't understand why this happened." But deep down, a seed of doubt began to take root. The following days were a blur of grief and confusion. Diane's death left a gaping hole in the Caldwell family, and the once warm home felt cold and empty. Lauren and Richard leaned on Noah for support, but Noah found himself withdrawing, haunted by a question he couldn't shake: could Evelyn have been involved? He hated himself for even thinking it, but Evelyn's behavior in the weeks leading up to the murder replayed in his mind. Her resentment toward his family, the way she had accused Diane of trying to tear them apart, and her parting words the night they broke up all seemed too coincidental. Meanwhile, Detective Hayes continued piecing together the puzzle. Forensics uncovered a critical clue, a small fabric fiber near Diane's body that didn't match anything in the house. It was a strange material, the kind used in modern coats, a detail Hayes logged for later. Then, a breakthrough came from a neighbor, Margaret Daniels. Margaret reported seeing an unfamiliar car parked near the Caldwell house early that morning. It was a dark sedan, she explained. "I didn't get a good look at the driver, but it was definitely parked there for a while." Hayes immediately cross-referenced the description with local traffic cameras. The results were chilling. The car belonged to Evelyn Harper. The confrontation came when Hayes called Noah into the station. "Noah," she began carefully, "do you know anyone who drives this car?" She slid a photo across the table, showing a clear image of Evelyn's vehicle near Diane's house. Noah's heart sank. He stared at the photo, his mind racing. "That's Evelyn's car," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Hayes leaned forward. "We also found a fabric fiber at the scene that matches a coat she's been seen wearing. Noah, I need to know, has Evelyn ever said or done anything that made you think she might hurt your mother? Noah hesitated, then recounted Evelyn's behavior, her possessiveness, her outbursts, and, most disturbingly, her words the night he left her. Your family is poison, Noah. They've turned you against me. You'll regret this. As the pieces fell into place, Hayes obtained a warrant to search Evelyn's apartment. What they found sealed her fate. Hidden in the back of her closet was Diane's missing jewelry, along with a pair of gloves and a coat matching the fabric fiber found at the scene. Even more damning was a notebook filled with Evelyn's scrawled thoughts, paranoid, angry ramblings about Diane. One entry read, "She's the reason he's slipping away. I have to stop her before it's too late." When Hayes shared the findings with Noah, he felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. He had trusted Evelyn, loved her, and now she was the prime suspect in his mother's murder. Evelyn's secrets were unraveling, but the most shocking revelations were yet to come. What drove her to such a dark place? And how far would she go to protect the twisted love she couldn't let go of? When Evelyn Harper's secrets began to unravel, the truth was far darker than anyone could have imagined. For Noah Caldwell, the revelations would forever change how he viewed love, trust, and betrayal. As the investigation closed in, Evelyn Harper's carefully constructed facade began to crack. The search of her apartment had yielded damning evidence: Diane Caldwell's missing jewelry, a pair of gloves with traces of Diane's blood, and the ominous notebook filled with Evelyn's chaotic, angry thoughts. For Detective Rebecca Hayes, the case against Evelyn was coming together. But there was one final piece missing: Evelyn herself. Noah Caldwell, struggling to come to terms with the horror unfolding around him, returned to the apartment he had once shared with Evelyn. The walls that once felt like a refuge now seemed suffocating. As he sorted through their shared belongings, his hand brushed against a journal tucked beneath a pile of books. Curiosity and dread mingled as he opened it. The pages were filled with Evelyn's handwriting, dense, erratic, and spiraling. At first, it was just mundane notes about their relationship, meals they shared, places they visited. But as he flipped further, the tone shifted. The entries grew darker, filled with resentment and paranoia. One entry stopped him cold. "She's the reason he's slipping away. Diane is always in the way, always trying to pull him back. He doesn't see it, but I do. She has to be removed. It's the only way." Noah's hands trembled as he read the date at the top of the page, one day before his mother's murder. The weight of the words hit him like a tidal wave. Evelyn hadn't just been angry, she had planned this. His mind raced. He thought back to the countless arguments, the subtle digs Evelyn had made about his mother, her insistence that Diane was trying to sabotage their relationship. It all made sense now, but it was a truth he wasn't ready to face. Noah immediately took the journal to Detective Hayes. When he placed it on her desk, his voice was heavy with emotion. This is her handwriting. It's all here. She planned it." Hayes flipped through the journal, her face grim. "This is exactly what we needed, Noah. Thank you for bringing this in. It couldn't have been easy." Noah simply nodded, his throat tight. It wasn't easy. Nothing about this was easy. The evidence was overwhelming, and Hayes wasted no time obtaining a warrant for Evelyn's arrest. They found her at a local bookstore, casually browsing as if nothing had happened. When two plainclothes officers approached her, she froze. "Evelyn Harper," one of them said. "You're under arrest for the murder of Diane Caldwell." Her face paled, but she didn't resist. Instead, she smiled, a chilling, hollow smile that sent a shiver down the officer's spine. At the station, Evelyn sat in the interrogation room, her hands cuffed and her expression eerily calm. Detective Hayes entered, carrying the journal. "Evelyn," Hayes began, her voice steady, "we have your notebook, the gloves, the jewelry. We know you were at the Caldwell house that morning. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Evelyn leaned back in her chair, her eyes narrowing. "Everything I did for love," she said quietly. "Love?" Hayes echoed, incredulous. Evelyn's voice rose, her calm exterior cracking. "Diane was poisoning him against me. She never wanted us to be together. She was manipulating him, controlling him, just like everyone else in my life has tried to control me. I had to stop her." Hayes let the words hang in the air, her expression unreadable. "You didn't stop her, Evelyn. You killed her. And now, you're going to have to live with that." The final nail in Evelyn's coffin came when Hayes showed Noah the journal's most chilling entry. "Tomorrow, everything will be fixed. He'll see that I'm the only one who truly loves him. The only one he can trust." Noah couldn't read the words without tears welling in his eyes. The woman he had once loved, the woman he thought he knew, had betrayed him in the most unimaginable way. Evelyn's arrest and confession sent shockwaves through the small town of Concord. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers struggled to reconcile the kind, creative woman they thought they knew with the calculated killer she had become. For Noah, the pain was unimaginable. He had lost his mother and been betrayed by the person he trusted most. The guilt, the anger, and the heartbreak threatened to consume him. But amidst the darkness, there was also clarity. Evelyn thought her actions would bring her closer to Noah, but they only sealed her fate. In the aftermath of her arrest, the Caldwell family faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives. What lessons would they carry from this tragedy? And what would become of Evelyn in the end? Evelyn Harper thought her actions would secure her love with Noah Caldwell, but instead, they unraveled her world. Now, the dust settles, but the scars remain. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read. The air felt heavy, laden with the weight of months of grief, betrayal, and loss. Evelyn Harper sat motionless at the defense table, her face devoid of emotion as the judge delivered the sentence, life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Across the room, Noah Caldwell sat with his father and sister, his hands clenched tightly on his lap. Every word of the verdict felt like a bittersweet release, a step toward justice, but also a painful reminder of the mother he had lost and the love that had turned into a nightmare. For Evelyn, the reality of her fate seemed to sink in only as the handcuffs clicked around her wrists. As the bailiff led her away, she turned back toward Noah, her voice barely a whisper but filled with desperation. "I did this for us, Noah. I love you. You'll understand someday." Noah didn't respond. He couldn't. The woman standing before him was no longer the Evelyn he had fallen in love with. That Evelyn was gone, replaced by someone unrecognizable, someone consumed by obsession. In the weeks following the trial, life in Concord began to move forward, but for the Caldwell family, nothing felt normal. Diane's absence was a constant void, felt in the empty chair at the dinner table, in the soundless mornings without her voice, and in the quiet grief that lingered in every corner of their home. Noah struggled most of all. He carried the weight of guilt, replaying every moment of his relationship with Evelyn, questioning how he hadn't seen the signs sooner. Could he have stopped her? Could he have saved his mother? These questions haunted him, robbing him of sleep and peace. One evening, as he sat alone in the family living room, his sister Lauren joined him. "It's not your fault, you know," she said softly, breaking the silence. Noah shook his head, tears welling in his eyes. "I should have seen it, Lauren. I should have stopped her." "You couldn't have known," Lauren replied. "She fooled all of us, not just you. But you did the right thing in the end. You stood up to her, and you brought her to justice. Mom would be proud of you for that." Her words brought a small measure of comfort, but the pain lingered. In the weeks that followed, Noah began the slow process of rebuilding. He leaned on his family and friends, rediscovering the connections he had neglected during his time with Evelyn. Tyler, his best friend, invited him out for beers, and their laughter felt like a lifeline, a reminder of who Noah had been before everything fell apart. But the road to healing was far from easy. One day, a letter arrived at the Caldwell home. It was addressed to Noah, postmarked from the state penitentiary. His heart sank as he recognized Evelyn's handwriting on the envelope. With trembling hands, he opened it. The letter was filled with ramblings, veering between apologies and declarations of love. "I know you hate me now," it read, "but one day, you'll see that I did this for us. I saved us. I'll wait for you, Noah. However long it takes." Noah felt a chill run down his spine. He placed the letter in a drawer, unwilling to burn it but unable to face it again. For Evelyn, prison became her new reality. Behind bars, she retreated further into her delusions, spending her days writing in journals and crafting stories of love, loss, and redemption. She seemed to believe that one day, Noah would forgive her, that they would somehow find their way back to each other. But outside the prison walls, life moved on. Noah found solace in small, ordinary moments, helping his father with gardening, sharing meals with Lauren, and revisiting the hiking trails he once loved. Each step forward was a victory, a way of reclaiming the life Evelyn had tried to take from him. The story of Evelyn Harper and Noah Caldwell is one of love turned toxic, of obsession that spiraled into tragedy. It reminds us of the importance of recognizing red flags in relationships, of listening to the concerns of those who love us, and of never underestimating the damage unchecked obsession can cause. What do you think of Noah's decision to confront Evelyn and bring her to justice? Do you think Evelyn truly believed her actions were out of love, or was she driven by something darker? And most importantly, what lessons can we take from this story? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your feelings in the comments below. What would you have done in Noah's shoes? Did this story make you reflect on any relationships in your own life? Let's start a conversation.